Back in the 60s, when Bill Richardson was a teenager, there was a hit song called The Name Game. It's also known as the Banana Fana song. And apparently, it had a lasting impact on him. No, he does not go around singing Billy, Billy, Bo Billy, but he has been playing his own New Mexico version of The Name Game, and he's been playing it a lot. Here's News 13 investigative reporter Larry Barker.
In America, we honor our heroes in a grand way. Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln. These monuments are symbols of leadership and accomplishment. In New Mexico, the Lew Wallace Building is named for a colorful territorial governor. The Lamy Building honors Santa Fe's first archbishop. And the Paul Bardicke Building honors, well, Paul Bardicke. So, who's Bardicke? He was once Attorney General 25 years ago. So, how did Bardicke get his name on this building? Well, for starters, he's got a good friend in a high place.
When it comes to tacking names on state buildings, it's not what you've accomplished that's important. It's who you know. More specifically, if you want your name in foot-high letters on a public building, you better get to know Bill Richardson.
Dr. Rick Hendricks is New Mexico's state historian.
My understanding of the procedure today is that the governor, at his discretion, selects names for new buildings.
Now, Paul and Bill go way back. Bardicke was the governor's personal attorney. He also ran Richardson's gubernatorial campaign. So if you want to know how Bardicke's name ended up here, ask the Gov. And when it comes to the name game, the governor has been downright prolific. Everywhere you look, the names of living politicians are plastered across public property. There's office buildings, trains, towers, libraries, and athletic centers. Now, in the past, there actually was a policy for naming state buildings.
Deceased individuals who had made a major contribution to New Mexico history, culture.
The King administration had a similar policy.
When he was the governor, the policy was to name buildings only after sort of famous New Mexicans that had passed away.
So why do we honor our politicians with huge billboards tacked on public buildings? Stan Hortis is a former state historian.
It's just a way of memorializing someone whose values we respect and whose contributions have been outstanding to society.
The evidence is everywhere. For example, the African American Performing Arts Center is named for State Rep Cheryl Williams Stapleton. And the Hispanic Cultural Center's Torreon honored former state senator Manny Aragon. Or at least it did. 4 years ago, after being named, the Torreon was denamed when Aragon was sent to the penitentiary for accepting bribes in a corruption scandal. And then there's the living ex-governor buildings. There's the Gary Carruthers complex, the Jerry Apodaca, and the Tony Anaya. And shortly before he died, Bruce King got the Farm and Ranch Museum. Gary King says his dad never really felt comfortable with accolades.
Surely lots of folks came to him when he was governor and said, we'd like to put your name on a state building. What would he say?
I think he would just say, I don't know if I can do a Bruce King, but he would say, oh, you know, I don't really think that you ought to do that.
But when it comes to honoring living ex-governors, there were a few that Bill Richardson left off the list. Gary Johnson, for one. Walter Bradley was Johnson's lieutenant governor. There is not a Gary Johnson building in New Mexico. Do you guys feel left out?
No, not at all.
And ex-governor David Cargo didn't make the cut either.
Just to name buildings for living people with no relevance between accomplishment and the naming of the building, I think is ludicrous.
Cargo was elected to the State House in 1967.
I really think that you should have a major achievement that is somehow relevant to the building or what the building represents, or you should die. And, of course, I suppose if you could encourage some of them to die, they wouldn't be so anxious to have their names on the buildings.
It's not just buildings. Some politicians even have their own trains. Yes, trains. thanks to the State Transportation Commission, this rail runner is now dubbed the Bill Richardson Express. All aboard!
Why put the governor's name on the locomotive?
Well, I think it was his initiative, and out of respect, this commission did that, and I'm proud that I did it.
There's a state rep, Dan Silva, the Tony Anaya, and let's not forget the Johnny Cope, a train the Transportation Commission dedicated to its own chairman.
One of the commissioners said, you know, we want to add Johnny Cope to one of the locomotives, and I immediately said no. It was an embarrassment to me, and I thought it would be self-serving.
Why honor Johnny Cope with his plaque on the rail runner train?
Proud of that. He advised us to vote against that. He was embarrassed by it. He wasn't happy with us. We outvoted him.
And there's one more. It took an act of Congress and 57 years before Abe Lincoln got his memorial. However, Bill Richardson didn't have to wait. UNM's regents decided to honor the current first couple with their very own hospital wing. Now, Bill Richardson may have his hospital. Dave Cargo has the Mora County Library.
Is there any building that you're just dying to have named the Dave Cargo Building?
Not really, as long as it isn't a jail. I wouldn't want a jail named after me, I guess.
Larry Barker, KRQE News 13.
There is nobody like Lonesome Dave Cargo. Beside a train and a hospital, the runway at the spaceport is also named after Governor Richardson. And on Thursday, the State Transportation Commission plans to name the I-40 and Coors interchange the Bill Richardson interchange. The governor did not respond to our request for information about his decision-making process for naming things.